say it might sound strange, might sound very strange, but there is a part of me now that just wonders what would have happened if I hadn't gone through this very difficult experience. Would I have been able to be as vulnerable as I started to be? Hi community, welcome back to Acupfulll. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. This is an incredible side of the internet to be on. We're here to learn, grow, take care of our well-being, and just overall become the individuals of our dreams. And so I really hope you like it here and you stay. In this week's episode, we are continuing with the Healing Through Feeling series. I spent 2024 intentionally and truly confronting and healing from things that had left me so broken that I was slowly but surely becoming a mere shelf of myself. People that knew me 2 years ago and before that would probably be so shocked to hear me saying that, because I would always present myself as happy and fulfilled and at peace, but it was the furthest thing from the truth. I felt so empty. And I was carrying around so much pain and anger from many different things that had happened in my past and that were happening at that time in my life. And so I decided that I did not want to feel that way anymore. I was so tired of feeling the way I was feeling. And while my healing journey is not complete, I am doing so well. I have come really far, and I just wanted to share what I've done to get to this point, the practical and actionable things that have truly, truly helped me. So, welcome to Healing Through Feeling, the Acceptance Edition. In last week's episode, I shared how therapy has been a big part of my healing and how it has changed my life for the better. And it has impacted every single part of my life in such a big and beautiful way. It has filtered into my ability to see reality and to stop pretending that some of the most messed up things that I went through in the past were not damaging and quite literally brain altering. Just to backtrack a little bit for context, and to also show that healing is a marathon and not a sprint, I first started noticing that something just was not right with me in 2022, and this was because I was in a season where I was unemployed for the first time since graduating in 2019, and I was spending 95% of my time at home alone with my thoughts, and it was so hard. No, that's an understatement. It was awful. Before that period of being home, I was always busy. I was busy with work. It was either work or my social life or my then romantic relationship. And I just never gave myself the time to just sit with myself. And I didn't want to. Because if I'm being quite honest, a part of me, even if it was a very, very small part, knew that that wasn't a place I wanted to go to. I wanted to stay in the alternate reality I'd created, where everything was fine and my life was beautiful. But I just could not take it anymore because I was just permanently triggered and my mental health was in a bad place. And of course, unemployment played a role in my state of mind, but it wasn't the big reason why I was feeling the things I was feeling. The level of fragility and pain was one that I could feel physically. I also used to think about death a lot. I don't want to lie. I often thought of unaliving myself. And so my therapy journey started in 2022 when I was going through all of that. And so most of the sessions had to do with talking about and working through the childhood experiences that were traumatic and how they showed up in adulthood when I first started my journey. But I only started to connect the dots and allow myself to become a lot more vulnerable in the latter part of 2023. And so in those sessions, that's when acceptance started happening. And I also think that something that really prompted that level of vulnerability that I started to show was just before I properly went back to therapy, or one of the reasons why I was on a much faster track, I want to say, to having more intense sessions was because of I had just gone through a very difficult thing that had pretty much traumatized me, I want to say. So I was just really ready to lay it all bare and be very, very honest with myself. And I will say, it might sound strange, it might sound very strange, but there is a part of me now that just wonders what would have happened if I hadn't gone through this very difficult experience. Would I have been able to be as vulnerable as I started to be? And then I say to myself, I'm actually glad that it happened, because it opened a different door for me, a new door when it came to vulnerability, and when it came to just allowing myself to feel broken and allowing myself to feel the impact of the thing that I had experienced. So that's when I really started becoming very, 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 very vulnerable, and I just opened up in a way that I never had before. And remember when I said I'd created an alternate reality? Yeah, therapy helped me to realize that this is not something that I just started doing in my 20s. I did it as a little 10, 11, 12-year-old girl because I was trying to cope in the unpredictability, the confusion, the dysfunction, and sometimes scary environment that I was raised in. It was my escape that I ended up making my reality, even though it wasn't. And so because I'd found my own little place in which I could escape and cope, I carried that into adulthood. But the thing is, it started to manifest as self-destruction. What I had normalized simply wasn't normal. People pleasing, having unhealthy emotional attachments, not being able to regulate my emotions, those were not things that were okay. And I had masked these different things as, so for example, with people pleasing, I was just calling myself someone that shows up, shows off for the people that she loves. Having unhealthy emotional attachments, I would call that love. I would call that strong, being someone that connects very strongly to other people. Not being able to regulate my emotions, that's something that I just always found a way to normalize. And obviously I did not know that was what was happening. Specifically the term not being able, or the phrase not being able to regulate my emotions, I wouldn't have called it that. I didn't even know that it was that. For me, it was just normal, or it was okay to be passive aggressive, or to shut down, or to give someone the silent treatment, or even to have very intense disagreements or arguments with another person, or to not fight at all, to not have disagreements at all, right? So there was a way that I was finding around these things, and they were so normal to me. But the thing is, they were not normal, they were not okay. And these are truths that therapy helped me come to terms with. I learned to accept and understand that the traumatic things I experienced growing up were not okay. That being parentified at a really young age was not okay. That not being protected or seen or heard was not okay. That not being loved in the ways that I needed as a child was not okay. That having to adapt to situations that I was not meant to be in the first place was not okay. And that not being okay, being in pain, being afraid are normal reactions that I should feel and give myself a chance to process them. That I don't need to run or hide. And that it's okay not to be okay. I think the big thing that therapy really brought me to was accepting that it is okay to not be okay. And that I don't need to pretend that I'm fine with something that I'm not fine with. I don't need to pretend that I'm fine, period. If something has impacted me so badly, then I should give myself a chance to process that. If I am not okay with being treated a specific way, then I am within my rights to vocalize that and to express myself about that, right? So therapy really brought me to a place where accepting a lot of things became normal, and it became okay. And I just basically had permission to realize things, to see things for what they were, not what I wanted them to be. So yeah, I promise you, acceptance was the beginning of me not feeling like I have been locked in a dark room with absolutely no way out. Therapy also definitely changed my perspective, because it gave me the opportunity to open the door of accepting that what my parents were doing is what they knew to do. All right. And at first, it was very challenging to wrap my head around, especially because as a child, you put your parents on a very high pedestal and you have a lot of expectations of them, as you should. As children, we are allowed to expect a lot from our parents. They're our caregivers. They are the people that we are going to trust first. They are the people that we are supposed to be able to trust first, who are meant to take care of us, who are meant to meet our emotional and mental and physical needs, right? And so when they don't do that, obviously that is going to have a negative impact. It is going to hurt you. It is going to break you. It definitely hurt me. It definitely broke me. And at first, I was just very, very upset. And I was very, very frustrated. And I had a lot of resentment towards my parents, because I just felt like there were so many times where they had the time, the space, the opportunity to play their role, but they didn't, until I started understanding that it's a lot more complicated than that. And it gave me an opportunity to look at things from a completely different perspective, especially when I was sitting in sessions with a therapist and just walking through the realities of what I experienced, and understanding that before my parents were my parents, they were a little girl and a little boy way back when. And they were raised in environments that impacted them in specific ways. And just because of my mom fell pregnant and became a mother, that did not automatically erase what she went through. It did not all of a sudden replace her experiences with completely new experiences that she would be able to share with me, healthy experiences, healthy interactions with certain things, with certain ideas that she would then be able to pass to me. She was still the same person. And just also coming to a place where I understand, or at the time where I began to understand, that it really is not, it's not something that is easy or that goes away. The experiences that you had as a child, they don't go away when you become a parent. As a matter of fact, you might become even more triggered. And that's something that a lot of our parents did not understand about becoming parents, that having children would probably be something that would trigger them, that would bring them back or take them back to a place of when they were little children, and how they were being treated, and what they went through, right? So again, therapy really also opened the door to me seeing a completely different perspective and seeing my parents from a completely different light. And I've spoken about this before when I did an episode on forgiveness, that is also something that got me to a place of learning to forgive and be more compassionate towards my parents, and understand that they were only doing what they knew to do. They were only mimicking, they were only repeating what they knew to do. And it is so complex, as I said. It has to do with the brain. The way you were loved growing up alters your brain. How you were loved is how you are going to love. And it might be easy for another person who is not in that situation, or who has not had certain experiences, to say, but why can't you just do better? When a person doesn't know better, they are not going to do better. And it's so much more difficult to adjust and learn and to step into different patterns when that's not something that you had been taught or that you had been shown. So now you have to start learning it as an adult. And for a lot of our parents, they had to start learning it as an adult who was not single and having access to something like therapy or having support and love and just people rooting for them. It's somebody who is 25, 26, newly married, pregnant, or having just given birth. And there's just so much volatility. I mean, many black parents who are Gen X and even boomers, a lot of them, that was the situation. You would get married quite young, and it wouldn't be long after being married that you're now pregnant. And now you are going from being a newlywed to being a new mother to being a new father. And so you can imagine just being thrown into all of this is probably really overwhelming. On top of that, if you did not come from a home where you had lots of love and support and kindness, you are having to navigate all of these things alone. You're a new wife, you're a new mother. You don't have women around you encouraging you, supporting you, teaching you. And maybe you do have that support system, but it's very dysfunctional and it's very unhealthy. You hear things like, just stick it through when it comes to marriage. Just know that he's going to step out on you here and there. Just know that motherhood is difficult, but you can do it. You can do it. And there's this saying in Setswana, mosadi tshwara thipa bohaleng, which means a woman keeps it together, pretty much. She's got to hold the household together. She's got to show up for her children. But what about when she is going through postpartum depression? What about when she is overwhelmed because of what she's experiencing is also new, and she just doesn't know what to do with herself? Newlywed, new mom. What is she supposed to do then in that situation? How does she deal with the fact that it is affecting her mental health? It is affecting her ability to show up emotionally. She doesn't even know where to start, but she needs to keep it together, So these really unhealthy narratives, just these really unhealthy ideas that are planted in the head of somebody who's really young, who doesn't have all of this experience, or who doesn't have support, and you're having to see all of these things through, and it's just a lot, right? So what I've pretty much learned to do, or what I learned to do from the moment that I understood that my parents were not my parents first, they were human beings who had various other experiences, I started to put myself in their shoes. And even that was a lot. That was a lot to do, because I still felt like, why? I am the child in this situation. But it came to a point where I realized that if I'm going to heal, and I'm doing it for myself, and I'm doing it for my future family, to be a better sister, to be a better daughter, to be a better friend, just to be a better person for myself as well, I need to go there. And so that's exactly what I did. And I'm going to say it again. We are only going to do what we know to do. I would like to read something that comes out of What Happened to You, the book What Happened to You. I've mentioned this book a lot on the podcast. It's called What Happened to You, Conversations on Trauma, Resilience and Healing, and it is by Dr. Bruce D. Perry and Oprah Winfrey. In this chapter, both of them talk through how what we see is what we do, and how we were loved impacts our life from when we are children until we are adults, and how it changes your life pretty much. Oprah says, so how you were loved is so much more complex than simply saying you weren't handled with affection as a child, therefore you will be sad. What you're really saying is that if you were treated aggressively, or if there was chaotic or neglectful caregiving, or if you weren't held as a child, your brain could be biologically affected. Dr. Perry says exactly. Childhood experiences literally impact the biology of the brain. Oprah then says, and as a result, it will affect how you function for the rest of your life. Dr. Perry says it can. Our earliest developmental experiences, particularly touch and other relational-based sensory cues, including the caregiver's smell and the way they rock the infant, the songs they hum when feeding the infant, any unique movement in the way they respond to the infant when it's needy, all of these things are organizing experiences that help create the infant's worldview, the code book we talked about earlier. Again, think of building a house. The fetal brain is developing so rapidly, it's like putting in the foundation of a building. In the first couple of months after you're born, it's like putting up the framing. In the first year, all of your interactions with others are adding the wiring and plumbing. All of these are really important parts of building the house. It's not fully organized yet, but most of the major characteristics of the building are put in place. A 2-year-old child is not yet fully developed, but the foundational structures and systems are there, and these will be the basis for future development. With a house, if you do a bad job with the foundation, put in shoddy wiring and plumbing, but decorate it with beautiful flooring and furniture, the core defects in the house may not be visible as you first walk through, but these early construction issues will lead to problems later on. The same is true with a young child. Really, every aspect of human functioning is influenced by early developmental experiences, both when they are consistent, predictable, and loving interactions, and when there is chaos, threat, unpredictability, or lack of love. Oprah says, "Yes, how were you loved? It makes all the difference." In all the conversations I've had, my experience has been that dysfunction shows up in direct proportion to how you were or were not loved. Did you get what you needed to thrive? Dr. Perry says, love given and felt is dependent upon the ability to be present, attentive, attuned, and responsive to another human being. This glue of humanity has been essential to the survival of our species and to the health and happiness of the individual. And this ability is based upon what happened to you, primarily as a young child. So this just pretty much echoes what I was just saying, that I realized that my parents, their experiences, they come from when they were young children, and their experiences and how they were loved and what they were taught, it's something that they took into adulthood and then into being parents. So that's really what got me to a place of understanding that I need to give them grace, and I need to give myself grace as well. And I need to see them as people who also have trauma and who have also had very, very difficult experiences. And so that has really brought me to the point that I'm at now. It's just not holding anything against them anymore. It's understanding that they have dealt with their own difficulties, and that their intention was never to harm me. It was never to hurt me. And that is also what has brought myself and my mom a lot closer. It's just being able to see her in that light, and more and more opening up to each other and sharing with each other how certain things that we've experienced have affected us. What she experienced growing up and what I experienced growing up. And we have done a lot of work on ourselves as individuals, but also as a mother and a daughter. And it's beautiful to see how far we've come, and it's just something that I'm very, very grateful for, because it's very possible that it wouldn't have turned out like this. The cycle would have just continued of anger and pain and bitterness. But we continue to choose to walk away from that. It's a choice that we make in our daily actions. It's a choice that we make in how we speak to each other, how we treat each other. And I'm really, really grateful for that. So that has really just been another reason why I have been able to move forward, because there's a lot of repairing that has been happening in my life. The relationship between my mother and I is something that has given me the strength and the courage to just keep going and to keep moving forward. And I'm just very, very grateful. I am so, 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 so grateful. I'm incredibly grateful. But yeah, I've just gotten to a place where even with my dad, I have moved on, I've forgiven him, and I really do wish him all of the best. I want only good things for him. I don't hold anything against him anymore. It used to be so difficult to talk about my father without feeling like I'm going to start crying, or without feeling this angst, and there was just a lot going on. So yeah, just also reading this book, What Happened to You, that's another thing that really gave me a different understanding and view of my parents. What happened to them as children significantly impacted how they showed up as my parents, right? Like I just said. And this book, just in general, especially if you're on a journey to understanding how your trauma affected you and how you can work through that and heal through that and just become a better person through that, this book is incredible for that. And it's been an amazing tool and very, very helpful. So if you are on that journey, please buy this book. It's a great investment. You can find it on Take-A-Lot. That's where I bought it. Otherwise, it should be available on Amazon. You can also go into an exclusive books and they should have it. But this has just really been the equivalent of being free, acceptance. It has been freedom. It has felt like opening all of the windows in a musty, stuffy room and then opening the door to step outside and feel the sunlight for the first time in a really long time in my life. And I feel like that every day. I feel like that every day now. It just feels like I'm living in a space where the windows are open. I can close them if I get cold. I can open them when it gets too warm. I get to step out and experience nature and just take in the smell of nature and just look up and appreciate just how blessed and fortunate I am. I genuinely feel so light. I feel so light, and I'm happy, and I am content, and I am fulfilled, and I'm no longer looking to other people for the things that I was so desperately looking for. Love, to be seen, to be heard, to be held, to be acknowledged. Not anymore. And it's taken work and it's taken time, because as I've mentioned, my journey with therapy, my journey with healing started in 2022. And I'm really reaping the rewards of that, or I'm reaping the fruits of this journey now only, properly, where I'm really seeing that, okay, wow, I'm here. I'm no longer in that dark room that I just could not get out of anymore. I'm here now. So yeah, I have been through a lot. There simply is not enough time in the day or year or the next 10 to go into detail. There's been a lot of pain and hurt in my life, and it ended up consuming me so much. And I will also say it probably would have destroyed my life had it not been for the love, grace, and mercy of God. Ultimately, really, really. And I'm gonna get into an episode on that, because this series would obviously not be complete, or it wouldn't be right if I do not speak on the Lord and what He has done for me. We will get there though. But I just had to say that I am here because of Him, and I am this version of myself because of the strength and courage He has continuously poured into me on this healing journey, and just the resources He has given me, the love, the support, the care, the kindness. And I'm just so grateful. I'm also saying all of this to say that healing takes courage, it takes work, it takes time, okay? But it is something that can be done. And I want to encourage you to allow yourself to walk down that road where you are learning to face the reality of your situation, of the things you've been through, where you accept them and you intentionally find ways to move forward, because it is possible to move forward, and it is possible to come back to yourself. Even if it is a different version of yourself, it's possible. I am a living testament of that. And I just want to again encourage you to give yourself a chance to go there. Okay? Give yourself a chance to go there. This is definitely where we are ending this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I'm sitting here and I've got butterflies in my stomach because I'm just excited, and I'm so happy, and I continue to be so blown away by the woman that I have become and that I am continuing to become. When I look back to who I was, how I felt on the inside, how I used to see myself, and I look at myself now, I am in awe in the best ways possible. I'm completely blown away in the best ways possible, and I am so grateful. I am so grateful. Thank you again for getting to this point of the episode. If you enjoyed this, please give it a rating. That helps the podcast get to more people, which is exactly what we want, because we want healing and growth and peace for many other people out there. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, if you have enjoyed any of the other episodes, if you are a frequent listener, please do rate the podcast. Thank you to everybody that has rated it. Thank you for every comment that you leave, for every time you share the podcast. Please don't forget that it is on every single listening platform. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And please continue to share your opinions. I am available on TikTok. I am also available on via email. Please do reach out there if you would like to share your thoughts. If you have just anything on your chest that you want to share, if you found this topic to be relatable and you want to talk about something, I'm up for a chat, okay? I also just like to hear different opinions. If you have a different opinion on this, please share that. And that's something that I need to be saying a lot more often as well. If you have a different opinion to mine, please share that, because I'm someone that loves to talk, that loves to learn. I'm not someone that thinks that my perspectives are the only way. I like to see things from other perspectives as well. Interrogate that, think about that, talk about that. Okay? Have a lovely remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to, be kind to yourself and others. Please, that is very important. Don't forget that you are absolutely worth it, and that you deserve to heal and to grow and to move on from some of the things that were traumatizing, that changed your life, that changed you. You deserve to move on from that. You deserve to live in a time, a space, in a way that gives you freedom and that gives you peace and fulfillment. And most importantly, keep doing the things that fill your cup.